I'll be speaking about navigating sustainability in the Singapore property sector. Why should we care about the sustainability part of the Singapore property sector? For buildings and construction industry, they are a major contributor to carbon dioxide emissions. Buildings and construction sector accounts for almost 40% of global carbon dioxide emissions. So if you want to tackle, let's say, climate change or global warming, this is a sector that we need to look at. The second reason is because regulators are already reacting. Under the Singapore government's green plan by 2030, there's a 80-80-80 target. The first target is to green 80% of the buildings by 2030. As of 2022, just 55% of the buildings were green. Next, 80% of the new developments have to be super low energy from 2030. As of now, not many buildings are super low energy. And the third one is to improve energy efficiency by 80% for the best-in-class buildings. Beyond the Singapore government, there's also more and more stakeholders who care. So for example, if you think in terms of tenants who pay up rents, or investors and people who purchase buildings, this is especially true for MNCs who are looking out for buildings with green credentials. And increasingly, a majority of investors have included ESG considerations as part of their investment strategies. Already, most Grade A office buildings in Singapore are green as a result. Now, beyond the green considerations, there's also social and governance aspects. What we observe is that increasingly, companies, including developers, are embracing social aspects such as diversity and inclusion, health and safety also, especially after the pandemic. Now, beyond looking out for profits, it also helps to have an organizational purpose. This will help to attract talent and also help these companies and also developers compete against rivals. And we think that this point could get increasingly important because millennials prefer to work in a company that has a strong sustainability agenda. Now, moving on to governance. So let's say for companies, it is becoming mandatory to make some of these disclosures. Let's say for climate, there will be a mandatory climate-related reporting based on the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. SGX already requires sustainability reports to be issued for SGX-listed companies. And what are some of the disclosures that are needed? This will include the ESG factors, the policies, practices, performance, and also targets. Companies are also beginning to be outright ranked on their governance and transparency scores. Under the Singapore and Transparency Index, beyond the ESG factors, which are environment, social and governance, there's also economics aspect to consider. A few of the major lenders in Singapore have already set stricter levels of emission targets. Over the longer term, this should compel borrowers to act. If not, they will face a much steeper cost of financing, if not no financing at all. So what are some of the emission targets that are being set? This could be decarbonization targets for sectors, and real estate is one of the key sectors that is being targeted. Outside of banks, bonds have also been used as a major source of financing. In particular, green bonds are being issued to finance the environment initiatives. And some of the use of proceeds could include low carbon buildings as well as refinancing of green buildings. Green bonds is a major part of the market. In 2022 itself, almost 500 billion in US dollars were being issued. In the Singapore dollar space, there are also more and more real estate developers pricing green bonds. This could include Fraser's Property, City Developments, and some of the REITs under CapitaLand. These companies that are better and higher on the ESG ratings also tend to enjoy better credit ratings, and so in turn, it lowers their cost of borrowings. Another reason why it can make sense to embark on a green journey for some of these developers is that there can be energy savings from transitioning to become green. For example, retrofitting something that is old can cut down utilities bills, such that the upfront investment costs can be lower. According to BCA, such retrofitting typically range within a 1 to 6 year payback period. Aside from this, the resale values may be higher. Although it may not be so observable, but according to studies from the BCA, majority of homeowners were willing to pay a little bit more for a green marked building. So for today, I have covered sustainability in the Singapore property sector. And I've covered reasons why we need to care, and also the reasons including the usual ESG factors, which are environment, social and governance, as well as economics, so that makes it EESG. I hope that you'll be able to embark on this ESG journey with us and hope that we will build a more sustainable future together.